This one? Yep.
Perfect. Thanks. Well, like the other speakers, I shall be brief, and then I'll open the floor to comments, questions. As someone said, brevity is the soul of wit. And as Dr. Spooner would have said, I like to be a shining wit. So thanks to Ed, Paul and Mary, who sound rather like a 60s pop group, for providing us with mental and physical stress. The mental stress was caused by excellent presentations, both oral and poster, and the stress of being given unlimited food whilst being told calorific restriction was good. I am assuming that the salmon was for omega-3 fish oil and the chocolate for serotonin. However, we were saved with the take-home message that smoking and binge drinking, especially if you pre-drink, might be good for you. They may even be synergistic hormetins. Now, I accept that I may have misconstrued this message relating to the papers on carbon monoxide, alcohol, and resveratrol. Or maybe they just contribute to an enriched environment. So the diagram on the left is my holistic homodynamic space, and naturally it's responding to stress, controlling damage, and remodeling. Now, my own homodynamic space seems to be expanding rather than contracting, so I think I'm actually defeating aging. So, one of the descriptions of complexity I like is that complexity is dancing on the edge of chaos. And I think that's a nice description. I think we're a mixture of chaotic and complex systems. We're very complicated. And that leads me into low-dose radiation effects being really just a matter of probability. And at low doses, the effects may be contradictory. And essentially, you just contribute to the noise in the system. And I've drawn a normal hermetic curve there, only I've linearized it because I know a particular passion of Ed's is the LNT and the derivation of the LNT. And in fact, I think with the LNT we have an example of sort of dogma becoming belief, and questioning belief becomes heresy. And we all know what we should do with heretics. We should burn them. And I think, you know, people tried to burn Ed. They obviously didn't survive, thankfully, but he had an unpleasant experience while he was investigating the origins of LNT. And he's recently published a paper which fairly strongly proves that the report on which the recommendation for LNT was made was, well, Ed uses the term scientific fraud. I don't like that term not because I disagree with the conclusions, but I think it's a final term. And I think perhaps it would be better if we put it in a more vernacular way, that the fix is in, and now we have to say why and how was that fix put in. We have to go back and research it in terms of historical context, which I think would be quite interesting. So I've listed some of the important hormetins and some of the more specific ones, the broader ones at the top, and the tissues that were really considered. And the post-conditioning, which wasn't touched on a lot in this meeting, was essentially the eccentric exercise, I think. And I think the issue with the exercise is that the preconditioning dose and the post-conditioning dose seem to be the same. And normally with hormesis we tend to think in terms of a small initial dose and a larger secondary dose, and the initial dose protecting against the larger secondary dose. And so this makes designing post-conditioning experiments harder. We've tried one in our lab. Well, we've got one to work where we did post-conditioning. One worked and a lot didn't. So we've got to do work out a better experimental protocol. So I think really that diagram covers everything. So what I'm going to do now is just open the floor for final comments, final discussion points.